Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video will be different. I'm in a different location. That's okay, because we're doing a different topic. It's going to be quite unusual. I'm going to be talking about doing falconry, air quotes, with non-traditional birds, including non-raptorial birds. So kind of a couple of ideas from this. So first of all, there's a man years ago, Daniel Mannix, who way long time ago, I think it's like 1967 actually, I think is the first edition, but he wrote a book called A Sporting Chance, Unusual Methods of Hunting, and it's an incredible book. It's got falconry, but it's got like hunting with cheetahs, hunting with ocelots, hunting with toads, hunting with cormorants, hunting with blowguns, hunting with boomerangs. This book inspired me, and I, in my younger years, replicated and did many of these forms of hunting. I wanted to try it out. I'm like, this is really exciting and interesting. There's a friend of mine who, Joseph Carter, who also was inspired by this book, and he saw in there hunting with otters and hunting with mink and hunting with, ferrets and things like that. And I've hunted with ferrets, but he's like, well, let's try this. And so he pioneered modern mink hunting in America. He has an amazing channel. I think it's Joseph Carter Mink Man. I will put a link to it because it's incredible stuff, just training mink to hunt. It's wild. So this idea is out there. Now also years ago there was a falconer in northern Utah. I mean, this is like 15, 20 years ago. And she, I think she had like a disability walking and couldn't walk really far out to fields and couldn't get right out. And so she would hunt with a red-tailed hawk, but she would just go to farm fields where she had permission. She put the hawk up on a pole, and she would just walk and flush out voles and mice and let the hawk then come down and catch them. So the interesting thing is falconry started off as a way to get food, but in modern times, it's most places, parts of the world evolved more into the modern notion of sport, which is we as humans have taken ourselves out of the food chain, but there's part of us that still longs to be connected to that food chain. We don't want to worry about getting eaten by other animals. We don't necessarily want to have to hunt every day for our own personal survival, but we would like to still be more connected with that whole circle of life. Falconry is one way that provides that. But the thing is, like you look at microhawking, like if you're going to train yourself a kestrel, you're going to go out there with a kestrel. What, you're going to catch a sparrow, a starling? Yeah, you can eat it, but it's more about enjoying the bird, doing what the bird does in the wild, and just being a part of that circle. So with that in mind, there's some very strange falconry birds and some birds that are not falconry birds. The first few of these that I'm going to mention, well, this whole thing, somebody brought this up the other day, and I'm like, this is actually a good idea because I've actually hunted with some of these wild, strange things. So some of these are birds that you can legally acquire and use in falconry, and people have, even though it's unusual. Some of them are not falconry birds at all, and I have used, and some of them are not falconry birds at all, and I have not used them, but I think it would still be fun to go out in the field and take the bird, let the bird do what it does, and just be a part of that circle. So with that in mind, the first bird is the northern harrier. Now, Harriers, I've done a video and I re-released it recently. I'll put a link to that in the description. Northern Harriers, they're not very conducive to falconry, but they've been mastered in falconry in New Zealand. It's the only falconry bird they're allowed to use there is the swamp harrier. So Harriers, again, they're more of a gliding, non-stop buoyant bird, but they can be trained to use in falconry, and it's actually fun to do so. The next one would be Caracaras. There's the crested Caracara and the striated Caracara. There's more than that, but these are the two that are somewhat regularly accessible. I would do anything to train a crested Caracara. I'd do anything to train either of these. I had an opportunity lined up years ago where there was a rehab situation, where there was a baby crested Caracara, and I think it was in Texas. And we made arrangements to get it and do everything all legally and cut and dry. But Utah requires that from the state of origin that a vet does a health check and signs off on it. And while I was at the vet clinic, the people were holding the bird and taking pictures with it. Look at me, I'm holding a bird. And the bird got spooked. They let go of the jesses. The bird flew, ran into a window and broke its neck. Never got I'm sorry. It was just like, well, this happened. I'm like, okay. So my one opportunity to fly a Caracara didn't happen. If you know any way in America, if you are watching this video or you know anybody who breeds them or has legal access in their state that I could work out a situation, I really want to document this and train one and fly it and work with it and just see what it can really do. So anyways, crested Caracaras and striated Caracaras both have been extensively trained with wildlife education shows. They're highly intelligent, they're distant cousins of falcons, and their hunting style doesn't lend itself to normal pursuit falconry. But again, just going out in the field, Harris Hawk style, having them follow along and do stuff, what's wrong with that? I think they'd be great. Next would be Falconets. Falconets are, kestrels dwarf these things. They're tiny, but in Southeast Asia, these have been trained extensively to hunt insects off the fist, and they'll bring it back to you. You can train these. If you train an imprint, they'll fly out, catch a butterfly, bring it back to you. Fly out, catch a grasshopper, bring it back to you. It's pretty cool. Again, it's just getting out there and experiencing nature in a beautiful way. Pygmy falcons, same thing. Pygmy falcons are pretty close in size. African pygmy falcons are pretty close in size to a kestrel. But again, same kind of thing. It's a small bird that can be trained and still be hunted. So that's it for normal raptors, birds that we call raptors. The rest of these are going to be wild. And if you disagree with me, tell me your disagreement. Tell me why you think I'm crazy. But I just think these would be fun. And a lot of these, there's no legal way to do this in the States. And some there are, some there are not. First one is Shrikes. There are Shrikes all over the world. Shrikes, also called butcherbirds, are unique species that when they have a very powerful beak. They're songbirds, but they have a powerful beak, but they don't have good, strong, gripping feet. So they'll catch a mouse, a bird, an insect with their beak, and then they'll go pierce the dead animal on a like a thorn bush or a barbed wire fence, and then come back and eat it later. That's why they call them butcherbirds. These can and have been trained for falconry. Now, in my younger years, many decades ago, I trained both loggerhead and northern shrikes. I know of several other falconers who also have done that as well. They are incredible hunters. They're very fast, they're very agile, they're tenacious. And I think that should be opened up to legally have that be under falconry rules in America, because I think many other countries do this actively as well, and I think they're great. The next one is kingfishers. Kingfishers. There are many species of kingfishers in the world. The one we have here in America is big, beautiful. I mean, it's not huge, but they're really good at catching little fish. And I think it would be really cool to train them, to catch little minnows, bring them back, come back and land for you. It would take some work, but it definitely could be done. And I think it should be. Which brings me to the next. The king of the kingfishers is the kookaburra. Now, I have worked with these in education, but I would love to hunt with one. They are kingfishers that their environment got more desolate, and so they had to switch. They'll still hunt fish, but they've had to switch to hunting birds and to hunting mice and all kinds of things. It's crazy to see like a kookaburra with a parakeet in its mouth, because they don't have a good way to break up their food, to tear off pieces. So they'll just bash it against a rock or something and try to break up the bones before they eat it. And they just have to swallow it whole, because again, they're built for eating fish. Kookaburras are a joy to work with. The sound they make is incredible, and they're a very powerful bite force. And I think they absolutely could be used in a similar way to what I've said before. Go out in the field, go over an area with some mice, go over an area with some, some fish, and try to catch with them. I think it would be a lot of fun to do, and I think it would work well. Next one are corvids. Corvids are the crow and raven family. So you have things like ravens, crows, magpies, and magpie jays. I've worked with almost all of these. I've worked with ravens, crows, and magpies, and I've worked with captive-bred magpie jays. They're insanely intelligent, rapacious, great hunters, problem-solving, smart. I have trained ravens to hunt snakes. And it's the same scenario I'm talking about. This is when I was a teenager, way back in the day. And I trained a raven. It would fly above me, about 80 feet above me, and just kind of glide and kind of soar in the heat of the desert summer sun. And anytime, and I was just looking around, and anytime it found a snake, it would see, had a better vantage point than me, and it would come down. It would get rattlesnakes and gopher snakes, and would come down and would just peck them, which is what ravens do in the wild. And back in the day, I got a bunch of snake skins that way, hunting them and you know, help them take them out. So again, it was kind of a team effort. Crows could be trained to do this as well. Crows are very smart, and there's a lot on the internet about them. They just don't do it for me. I am impressed by them, but they're not my thing. So you could do these same kind of things with crows. Again, I've trained crows, but it's not really my thing. Now, magpies. Magpies, you can train them. I had a magpie once catch a bat, and it went hunting and caught a little bat in a tree. This is, again, when I was a teenager, and it was walking around with it, and it would fly and land and look for things to hunt, and it went out and got a bat, put it on the ground, and pecked it to pieces, and got a little bat skull out of that, and he ate it. He was learning how to hunt. It was when I was rehabbing, getting to go back to the wild, but as part of that process of teaching them to make sure they can hunt, it was kind of fun. And I think magpie jays are so beautiful. I think a magpie jay, being able to hunt this way, kind of the pseudo hunting example, which again, normally falconry is just pursuit, right? You're going out with the bird and there's something, go get it. This is a different thing that I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting socializing a bird and normalizing you being part of its life, where you go out into nature and you're letting it do its thing, and it is being a part of that. The next one, and this is one of my dream birds. I have never trained one yet, not in education even, and that is a roadrunner. Roadrunners are the king of the cuckoo family, but these birds are incredible. They like to hunt snakes. They'll hunt anything. They'll hunt lizards and snakes and birds, and they'll even eat little baby tortoises, desert tortoises and stuff. But they're the king of the cuckoos, and so you don't really think of them as cuckoos, but once you know they're a member of the cuckoo family, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see it. But what they do is they'll go out and they can fly really well, but they can run too. And they run. And then when they see a snake, they flare out their crest on their head, flare it sideways. They got these colors on the side, and they flare their tail out, and they wag their tail, so the snake's like, whoa, there's tail, and then they peck the snake. It's incredible to watch. It's really something. They could be trained, and again, this would be the same kind of thing, going out in the field like a Harris hawk, just walking along, having the roadrunner follow along with you and having the roadrunner catch things. I think it would be fun. And again, I don't think there's a legal avenue to do that right now, outside of perhaps if you have a rehab roadrunner that you were conditioned to go back into the wild. But if that was a legal outlet, I mean, I think it would be so cool to train a roadrunner to hunt with. The next one is cormorants. Cormorants have been trained over in China and Southeast Asia for hundreds of years. And this is also documented in that book, A Sporting Chance, that I told you about. So you take the cormorants, you have a boat, and then you have like a little outrigger off of your boat, and the cormorants sit up there. And sometimes they have, what they do is they put like a ring around their neck. And so they can, the ring is big, and you take it off, but that ring is small enough that it's big enough that they can swallow small fish, but not big fish. So a fish that a human wouldn't want to bother eating, they get to swallow. A bigger fish that you would want to eat, they can't swallow. So what happens is you just go out there and you're paddling, and they're going down swimming, and they're catching fish. And if it's a big one, they come up to you, and they come over to you, and you pull the fish out. And this is, again, for hundreds of years this has been going on. It's a very cool way of fishing. And I think that would be really neat to do here in the States. The next version of that is with the Anhinga. I hope I'm saying that right. The Anhinga is a cousin of a cormorant, but it goes underwater. So a cormorant is like, I'm up on the surface, now I'm going to dive down and swim. Anhingas don't do that. They don't swim on the surface. They're almost entirely underwater all the time. And they pop up, their heads sticking out. But same thing. You can hunt with them the exact same way. I think it's more, the mindset of a cormorant lends itself more to this style of hunting than an Anhinga, but it's something that would be really cool to do and try. The next one, and would be kind of strange, that is a jaeger. And gulls, for that matter. A jaeger is like the bloodthirsty killer of the gulls. I have trained gulls in education settings, and they're powerful hunters. You could train them in this way to go hunt and scavenge out there with you. But jaegers actually actively actually hunt. Jaegers, there's a few species of Jaegers, and we occasionally get them in Utah. I've seen them out by Decker Lake, and it's a big buzz when they get here because they're not normally supposed to be here. But Jaegers, they'll hunt things like penguins and baby seals and stuff. They're vicious. So, and they will attack people as well and try to drive them off, trying to get food out of them. So I think a Jaeger could be trained, and I think working more with gulls would be really interesting. I think even in an education capacity, I would love to work with more gulls and train them up because they're smart, and it's one of those birds, if you get an adult, but if you get them when they're young, they train up just fine, and they're wonderful in that way. The next one is kingbirds, and this is kind of a bit strange. Kingbirds are songbirds, but what's fun about this, I've worked with rehabbers that have had baby kingbirds come in, and they have to train them to catch bugs. These are types of flycatchers that catch bugs out of the air, and their ability to fly and do stuff in the air is it's pretty wild. So again, this is a bird where it's a summertime bird. We don't have a legal outlet to do it, but rehabbers have an outlet to train them to hunt and go out, fly out, catch a bug, and then come back and land on your hand. Fly out, catch a bug, eat it, and come back and land on your hand. It's pretty cool to do. And again, it's just neat to be connected to nature in that way. The next one is Seriemas. Seriemas are the last living lineage of the terror birds, which, since I'm bringing this up, this is how big terror birds got even bigger than this. Terror birds were a family of mostly flightless birds, but the smallest ones were flighted, and we have 2 Seriemas around still today, left over from the Ice Age. You can and train them to hunt. They're kind of like, they fill the same role as a secretary bird. They're down in South America. They used to range all the way up into North America anciently. But again, these are birds that can fly, but they're most competent on the ground. So it's like a taller version of a crested caracara. This is a bird that's walking around, and so you just take them out with you and go walk and go hunt snakes. And people do demos with them, just like they do with secretary birds at bird centers, where they'll take like a rubber snake and they'll show just how well the Seriema can come up and bam, bam, and kick the snake. I think that would be really a cool thing to do, to connect to nature in that way, to train a Seriema and then go out in the field and go hunting with it. Which brings me to the last bird, which is one of my absolute favorite family lineages, and that is the hornbills. Hornbills. Hornbills are in Africa and Asia. They fill kind of a similar ecological role that toucans do in the New World. But these are omnivores, so they're aggressive hunters, but they're also, they eat fruit. They need fruit, they need both, which is very strange. They have incredibly weak digestive systems, which is one of the drawbacks to keeping them in captivity, is when they poop, it's very messy and very liquidy, and it's a pain to clean up. It's not like normal bird poop. Normal bird poop is very acidic, it comes out white. Not with these guys. Normally it's very liquidy. They have a very weak digestive system. But these guys go from tiny to huge. They go from, like the size of a kestrel, all the way up to some like the Great Indian Hornbill is the ground hornbill. Sorry, not the Great Indian. The ground hornbill, African ground hornbill, is like way heavier than an eagle. These are incredibly smart birds. They're talented, they're problem-solving smart, and they're incredible hunters. There's a video online of a flock of African ground hornbills hunting a rabbit, and this rabbit's running away from it. It's just like a pack of velociraptors. They're chasing it down on foot, and then finally they're chasing it in and out of the brush. And then finally it goes running towards the cameraman, and all of a sudden a tawny eagle swoops down and catches the rabbit, and all the hornbills are like, "Oh man!" They're all bummed out. I've flown several species. I have worked with Von der Deckens hornbills, which are small. They're pretty cool. The trumpeter hornbills are the ones that I've trained to hunt. They're really cool birds. And I've also done the silver-cheeked hornbill, which it looks like a trumpeter hornbill, but giant. It's kind of like the size of a red-tailed hawk. I think my dream birds to work with in the hornbill clan would be the Great Indian Hornbill. It's got the prettiest tail. It's just so bold, banding, and also, of course, an African ground hornbill, which I almost got one once, and I missed it by a day. That would have been a cool bird to train for education, but also take them out hunting. So with my African trumpeter hornbill, I had a lot of fun with it, and I trained it to hunt snakes. So I would also train it to catch grasshoppers. So now, her favorite thing to catch was blueberries. I'd chuck a blueberry across the room at her, and she'd always catch it midair. And the amazing thing is, hornbills, they look kind of dumpy, but they're so fast in air. If you have, in slow motion, if you watch a bug flying up, a hornbill will fly up, will look at it, 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 home. All in the time, they're just almost like a hummingbird. It's nuts. So they're so fast. So hunting bugs, catching bugs out in the open and catching garter snakes, they're really good at it. The funny thing is, they don't tear their food apart, and so they want to break their bones. So they're used to eating grasshopper. So you eat a grasshopper and you crunch that exoskeleton. If it's a snake, literally, she would take like a half an hour if I didn't take it away from her. She'd just crunch it and just tenderize it all up, make sure it was all soft. And it's like, come on. But hornbills can be trained to hunt, and I think it would be really fun to be more active in that. I haven't had a hornbill for about 3 years now, but I've been thinking about getting another one and training it to catch insects on the wing, because they do it, and they do it beautifully. And again, it's amazing to see what's otherwise perceived as kind of a dumpy, clunky bird suddenly go into this mode of hummingbird state. It's kind of like, you see, like we have California gulls in Utah, and they kind of normally have this, but if you want to see them go fast, if you're over by the landfill and there's a starling, the starling has food, and a gull keys in on it and was wanting to take it away, suddenly it moves like a goshawk. You've never had any idea just how insanely agile a seagull is as when it is trying to steal food from a starling. It's the same thing. Hornbills, kind of easygoing, but when they're going after insects, they are so fast and agile. It's breathtaking to see. So again, all these birds, this is a strange mix that I mentioned, but again, somebody asked that I do this video. I can't remember which species on the list somebody asked me to bring up, and I'm like, hey, might as well do them all. So all of these birds have merit. They're incredible hunters in the wild. They can be worked with, not in a traditional falconry sense, but they can be trained using falconry principles and utilized in falconry ways. So hope you enjoyed learning more about that. And if you haven't already, if you could hit subscribe, I very much appreciate it. And I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on what birds you've worked as well. And as always, happy hawking.